The human fleet had grown. What started as 300 vessels had become over 1,000 through a combination of captured devourer technology, alien allies who had volunteered their ships, and something that terrified the Galactic Council: human manufacturing capability operating at wartime levels. "They've built an entire industrial complex in 6 weeks," Dr. Velnara reported to the emergency session, "using nothing but asteroid mining and automated construction vessels. Their production capacity is exceeding our most optimistic projections by factors we don't have words for." Chancellor Mordoun studied the reports with growing unease. How is this possible? No species can achieve such rapid industrial expansion. Most species don't design their entire economy around the assumption that they'll need to fight multiple major wars simultaneously, Admiral Chen explained via hologram from her flagship, now a massive hybrid of human engineering and captured devourer biotechnology. "We've been preparing for total war since we invented agriculture. Every human colony ship was designed to bootstrap full military production within months of landing. We just never had to use it before." The truth was both impressive and terrifying. Humanity hadn't just been idle during their 2-century quarantine, they had been preparing. Every human settlement in the Sol system was a fortress, every mining operation was a potential weapons factory, and every citizen was trained in basic military operations. The galaxy had thought they were containing a dangerous species. Instead, they had given humanity 200 years to turn their entire star system into the most efficient war machine in the galaxy. "The main devourer fleet is 3 days out," Admiral Chen continued. "We've identified their staging area in the void between, approximately 17,000 light-years past the galactic rim. Based on captured data, we believe this is where their original creators established their base of operations." "Impossible," General Korath protested. "Nothing can survive in the void between. No stars, no planets, no source of energy or matter. It's empty space on a scale that would drive any thinking being insane." Admiral Chen's expression was grim. "Not empty, hidden. The Devourer programming includes references to something called the Eternal Archives, a repository of knowledge from every civilization they've consumed over the past 1,000,000 years. Whoever built them didn't just want to destroy other species. They wanted to preserve their knowledge while eliminating the species themselves. The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. Every great civilization that had vanished from the galaxy over the past 1,000,000 years, every species that had simply disappeared, leaving only ruins and legends, had been consumed by the Devourers and their knowledge stored in this hidden archive. "We have to destroy it," Chancellor Mordoun said immediately. "Whatever knowledge it contains, it's built on genocide." "Destroying it would be a waste," Admiral Chen replied coldly. "We're going to steal it. Every piece of data, every technological advancement, every scientific discovery from 1,000,000 years of galactic civilization. And then we're going to use it to make sure this never happens again." Dr. Velnara's compound eyes focused intently on the human admiral. "You're talking about raiding a facility in the deepest void, protected by forces we can't even imagine, to steal the collected knowledge of extinct civilizations. This is madness." "No," Admiral Chen corrected. "This is war, and humanity has been very good at winning wars for a very long time. The assault on the void between was launched from the edge of galactic space with the largest fleet ever assembled. 2,000 vessels representing every major species in the galaxy followed humanity's lead into the darkness between stars. But as they traveled deeper into the void, alien crews began to understand why no one had ever attempted such a journey before. The void between wasn't empty. It was actively hostile to life itself. Reality functioned differently here, following laws of physics that seemed designed to drive organic minds to madness. Alien crew members began reporting hallucinations, temporal displacement, and worse. Several ships had to be abandoned when their crews simply vanished despite being sealed inside pressurized compartments. The humans, however, seemed unaffected. "How?" General Korath demanded during an emergency conference call. His voice carried the strain of someone fighting to maintain sanity in an environment that seemed designed to destroy it. "We've been living with existential terror for our entire evolutionary history," Admiral Chen explained matter-of-factly. "Void madness, cosmic horror, the certainty that we're insignificant specks in an uncaring universe. That's just Tuesday for humanity. We've been writing stories about it for entertainment." As they traveled deeper, the fleet encountered the outer perimeter of the Eternal Archives. What they found defied description. A structure the size of a solar system, built from materials that shouldn't exist, powered by energy sources that violated every known law of thermodynamics. And protecting it were the Devourers. Not dozens or hundreds, but thousands of them, each one larger and more advanced than any previously encountered. "That's impossible," whispered Dr. Velnara. "There must be 5,000 Devourer constructs in that formation. How can there be so many?" Admiral Chen's analysis was typically direct, because they've been building them for 1,000,000 years. Every species they consumed, every world they devoured, went into building more of themselves. This isn't just a fleet. It's an automated civilization dedicated entirely to warfare. The battle for the Eternal Archives lasted 6 days and redefined what the galaxy understood about large-scale combat. The humans fought with a brutality that horrified their allies and a creativity that impressed even themselves. They turned stars into weapons, manipulated gravity wells to create crushing fields, and somehow managed to trick the Devourers into damaging their own base while trying to defend it. But the real breakthrough came when human engineers discovered something that changed everything. The Devourers weren't just automated weapons. They were prisons. Each construct contained the preserved consciousness of every individual from every species they had consumed. Billions of minds, kept alive in digital torment for the entertainment of their creators. "We're not just fighting to save the galaxy," Admiral Chen announced to her fleet as they prepared for the final assault. "We're fighting to free every soul that's been trapped in these things for 1,000,000 years. No pressure, but this is literally the most important battle in the history of consciousness itself." The assault on the Archive Core was led by Admiral Chen personally, flying a ship that was more weapon than vessel. Behind her came the most dangerous group of humans the galaxy had ever produced. Volunteers who had specifically requested assignment to the most suicidal mission possible. They called themselves the Spite Brigade, and their unofficial motto was, "We're probably going to die, but we're taking them with us." What they found at the heart of the archives was worse than anyone had imagined. The builders of the Devourers were still alive, sustained by the energy drained from consumed worlds and the suffering of imprisoned minds. They were ancient beyond measure, bitter beyond comprehension, and convinced that they alone deserved to exist in the universe. "Why?" Admiral Chen demanded as she stood in the chamber where these entities dwelt. "Why consume everything? Why preserve only to destroy?" The answer came in a voice like grinding stars. "Because we were alone. For eons, we were the only intelligence in the universe. When others finally emerged, we could not bear to share existence with lesser minds, so we decided to end them while preserving their essence for our study. We are the archive of all knowledge, the library of all wisdom. We are eternal." Admiral Chen's response was pure humanity. "You're insane, and you're under arrest for genocide on a galactic scale." The final battle was fought not with weapons, but with will itself. The archive entities tried to break the human minds that dared to challenge them, to drive them mad with visions of cosmic insignificance and eternal suffering. Instead, they encountered something they had never faced before, a species that had already come to terms with their own cosmic insignificance and had decided to be significant anyway. You cannot break minds that were forged in the knowledge that existence is meaningless. Admiral Chen told them as human technicians began the process of freeing the imprisoned consciousnesses. We learned long ago that meaning is something you create, not something you discover, and we've decided that your existence is meaningless while theirs has value. The liberation of the archives took months. One by one, the imprisoned minds were freed and given new bodies constructed from the same technology that had trapped them. Species that had been extinct for millennia were given new life, technologies that had been lost were recovered, and the greatest repository of knowledge in galactic history was transformed from a monument to genocide into a gift to all sentient life. But the real miracle was what humanity did next. "We're going home," Admiral Chen announced to the Galactic Council. "The Devourers are destroyed, the archives are free, and the galaxy is safe. Our job here is done." "But the power," Chancellor Morden protested. "The weapons, the technology, the knowledge you now possess. You could rule the entire galaxy." Admiral Chen's laugh was tired but genuine. "Why would we want to rule the galaxy? That sounds like a lot of paperwork and very little time for the things we actually enjoy. We'll take our share of the archive knowledge and go back to our star system. Maybe in a few centuries. When you've figured out what to do with all these newly resurrected civilizations, we can talk about reopening diplomatic relations." Just like that, General Korath couldn't hide his amazement. "You save the galaxy and then just leave?" "That's what heroes do," Admiral Chen replied simply. "They solve the problem and go home. Sticking around to be worshipped or to rule tends to make you the next problem that needs solving." As the human fleet prepared to return to Sol, taking with them only their own vessels and their share of the recovered knowledge, the galaxy struggled to understand what had just happened. Humanity had done the impossible. They had won a total war without becoming the thing they fought against. But perhaps most remarkably, they had proven that the most dangerous species in the galaxy was also the most trustworthy. Given ultimate power, they had chosen to give it up. Offered dominion over countless worlds, they had chosen to go home. Dr. Velnara, studying the final reports from the archive liberation, made a discovery that she decided to keep to herself. The builders of the Devourers had been remarkably similar to humanity in many ways. They had been apex predators, aggressive and territorial, who had emerged from a world where conflict was a way of life. The only difference was a single crucial element that humanity possessed, and they had lacked: hope. The builders of the Devourers had looked at the universe and seen only meaningless suffering, so they had decided to end it all while preserving themselves. Humanity looked at the same universe and saw infinite possibility, so they had decided to protect it and help it grow. As the human fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with them the gratitude of 1,000 species and the knowledge of ages, the galaxy began to rebuild. But now they rebuilt with a new understanding. Sometimes salvation comes not from saints or saviors, but from ordinary people who simply refuse to give up. The universe had needed a miracle, and they had called upon humanity. Humanity had answered not because they were perfect, but because they were exactly what they appeared to be: a species too stubborn to accept that anything was truly impossible, too curious to stop exploring, and too compassionate to let innocents suffer when they had the power to help. And perhaps most important of all, too wise to mistake power for righteousness, and too decent to confuse victory with the right to rule. The Devourers were gone, the archives were free, and humanity had proven that sometimes the greatest miracle of all is knowing when to stop and go home. In the end, that was perhaps the most human thing of all: saving the galaxy, and then getting back to the business of living their lives, leaving others to figure out what came next. Because that, after all, was what being human really meant: not the power to destroy or rule, but the wisdom to know when not to use that power at all.